finally. Hello everybody, my name is Kenkami, and it's been 10 years since Five Nights at Freddy's finally dropped. I cannot believe it's already been 10 years. Honestly, I didn't even realize it has already been that long. I was in freaking high school when Five Nights at Freddy's dropped. This game has... I didn't even realize it, but this game has literally accompanied me throughout whole the high school up to university up until now. So I may say not very happy years of my life. So yeah, today we're gonna talk about we're gonna swim a bit into the seas of the nostalgia, because Five Nights at Freddy's, I feel people don't realize how much influential and how much important is the Five Nights at Freddy's franchise in the pop culture, especially in the video game, and even more in the indie horror, especially game culture. So let's see where it all started, because it's pretty interesting. 2014 was one of those years, early 2010X, all the years from 2010, that kinda had this subculture of indie horror games that everybody fell in love with for different reasons. The reasons were either they were anime styled, so we had the RPG horror ones like Ib, Mad Father, The Witch House, and many others, or we had those games maybe based on a creepypasta or a creepy story. There were some games about Jeff the Killer. The most famous is probably Slenderman games, which, were the games that big YouTubers at the time played. And this kinda helped a bit on the cultivation of a subculture within the indie horror scene. Plus, Steam was already starting to give the opportunity for smaller creators to sell their projects. People would see them, would try them. It was a bit of a curious landscape that was formed. So people will play these indie horror games, they will suggest maybe to their favorite YouTuber. Maybe you go up to Markiplier and say, "Yo, Markiplier, there's this game you should play because I think it's pretty good." And maybe Markiplier will play it. Same thing with Jacksepticeye, PewDiePie, all these people that made the platform essentially. So we had as I said, various Slenderman games. I even had one on my iPad. Like, you may remember one of the first iPads Apple made with still the physical home buttons. Yeah, I had a Slenderman game there. Maybe another game was the various Amnesias. And then Five Nights at Freddy's dropped in 2014. And that game took the internet by storm. Literally everybody started loving this game. And I feel like a big part into that was Markiplier's influence. Markiplier's first video, the first episode of the first Five Nights at Freddy's, is probably the biggest gameplay video about Five Nights at Freddy's in terms of views. Like, if you look at it right now, it has 120 million views alone, that one video, which is absolutely bonkers. And it's probably what launched both Markiplier and Five Nights at Freddy's into the bigger scene, and not just Markiplier. Like, as I said, Five Nights at Freddy's was a game that took the internet so much because the gameplay is literally something that was not as seen much before. In the horror games, you usually go around and you can run from the threat, okay? In Five Nights at Freddy's, you have a freaking building that runs on AA batteries that you gotta manage, you cannot leave your seat, and all you can do is close your doors that can get jammed, and you can only try to seize away the animatronics that try and kill you. So, yeah, it was scary. It is scary. It's a scary setting. You can't go away from them. You can't really escape. And I know that later in the series, this concept was a bit left out, where you can move around. If we take, for example, Sister Location, you can move. You can't really run because the level still requires you to play the minigame of the animatronic. But if we look, for example, at the latest game released for the anniversary, Into the Pit, you can already move around, but that's because it's a very different style of game. It's probably made more to celebrate, you know, which is hilarious, since one of the things many people remember from Five Nights at Freddy's is the celebrate writing everywhere. So yeah, and this influenced people so much that a lot of people literally were created by Five Nights at Freddy's. Okay, not just, of course, Markiplier, but another big example is MatPat from Game Theorist. He has come so far that not only he met Scott, but he played a role into the Five Nights at Freddy's movie, which I absolutely loved. Maybe because I'm biased, but what's life without a bit of bias, am I right? So, yeah, and another person I can think of is Dauko. Dauko is the YouTuber that beat the maximum difficulty, the 50-20 no upgrades of Ultimate Custom Night, which was an achievement that not even Scott thought it was possible. So, yeah, this game, and this is just talking about YouTubers, just content creators. But even small developers, like the probably most famous fun game of Five Nights that is based off Five Nights at Freddy's is One Night at Flumpty, and it was created as a parody. But to be honest, I feel like it got so much traction, it was so well done, that after a certain point, I feel like the developers went like, you know what, we can do this, we can just do our own thing, no? So they just did, and it was absolutely amazing. There's Five Nights at Candy, there's a lot. There's even like fun games that are based of a Five Nights at Freddy's version of SpongeBob, for example, with like Five Nights at Krusty Krabs, Five Nights at Super Mario, Nintendo, I don't remember now. It's such a big deal that even the VTuber group Vichiban had their own version of Five Nights at Freddy's game named Meteor Roshi, and it was like, what year was that? Like last year, 2023. It got released this year. Like it got released the 5th of January of 2024, which is like it's 10 years since Five Nights at Freddy's. So you can understand how big of a deal Five Nights at Freddy's is. So Yeah, and since apparently the Five Nights at Freddy's original games are so easy to program, a lot of maybe young emerging developers probably started with Five Nights at Freddy's fan game. So this game may even uh, inspire and help some people to find their own calling. So one day we may even see names that we remember because, hey, that guy made that version of a fun game of Five Nights at Freddy's. Because they maybe started their first steps into the, game development thanks to Five Nights at Freddy's. They got passionate about it and now they work. I haven't checked, but I'm pretty sure this has already happened at least once. But I'm confident it has happened, and if it has not happened yet, it will. I am absolutely confident. And of course, how can we not name the Living Tombstone? Back in the day when it was like the first 1-2 years of Five Nights at Freddy's, these guys absolutely dominated the musical scene themed to Five Nights at Freddy's. They dominated so much that their song about the first Five Nights at Freddy's got featured as the OST of the end credits in the first Five Nights at Freddy's. If you haven't left the the cinema room as the film finished because I don't care who participated. First of all, you're a main person. Like, these people worked so hard to get recognition. Like, at the very least, just stay there and watch the credits. But they also featured the song that the Living Tombstone made, and I am personally kind of hopeful that they put again the Living Tombstones music at the end of the confirmed second film. It's confirmed that it's December of next year. So much time. And I kind of hope that we get another song from the Living Tombstone, probably the one you may know it because people turned it into a meme. The man behind the slaughter. It's been so long. I don't wanna get copyrighted, please, YouTube. I'm probably working on this video for so long. And yeah, oh, watch out there. Whew, that was close. As I was saying, Nate wants to battle, guys. Who remembers Nate wants to battle, guys? It's still in activity, although I feel like he took a break recently. But yeah, one of the ways I found out about Nate wants to battle was with his Five Nights at Freddy's free song. This game, I talked about how it impacted the general public, everyone. Content creators went absolutely insane about it. Artists of all kinds, even voice actors. Like, some people probably started voice acting because they got called from voicing a Five Nights at Freddy's animation. Probably you remember. There were so many, but the one I remember the most is Pymations about Five Nights at Freddy's 2. Where Foxy goes absolutely nuts because no one believes him that that's the night guard. It's probably the one I remember the most because I don't know. But I feel like now it needs to get a little bit personal, and let me know in the comments your personal experience with Five Nights at Freddy's, because I feel like that it's not just the impact on pop culture Five Nights at Freddy's had. It also is about something more personal. And I know it feels weird to be sentimental and feels for a game that involves a crazy psychopath stuffing children into animatronic suites in search for immortality. But I know it sounds weird, like this sounds bad, but I swear there's, at least for me, something more deep. Five Nights at Freddy's is such a big deal, and it kinda reminds me about Final Fantasy. Now, it's probably the F in the name, the various Fs in the names, but no, that's not it. It's because both their creators almost gave up. If you don't know the story about Final Fantasy, the reason why it's called Final Fantasy, it's because Final Fantasy's creator, Hironobu Sakaguchi, I blundered the pronunciation, I'm so sorry, called the game Final Fantasy because it was his last project before stopping and going back to university, essentially, to study. But he blew up and he curated the first 10 chapters. And yeah, it was the last project after many failures that got successful. Scott Cawthon, when he made Five Nights at Freddy's, in order to be his last fantasy, his Final Fantasy, before giving up on essentially making video games for a living for himself and his family, it was his last project, and it blew up. So, in that sense, Five Nights at Freddy's kinda remind me of Final Fantasy, because they're both stories in which the creators didn't give up until their last breath, until they were, now I got it, it was the last chance they gave themselves in order to try and make their dreams come true, which is something I think we should all learn from. So in the end, Five Nights at Freddy's as a franchise, as a project, kinda left me with the never give up kind of teaching, because that's what Scott Cawthon did. He never gave up. He never gave up on his dreams, and I feel like that in my small space, because it's a small space at the end of the day, but it's a space, it's still a space I created, I should not give up either. And neither you should give up, because they were at their last chance, but they endured it. We should all learn that we gotta always strive for what we desire the most. That's what Five Nights at Freddy's, or even better, Scott Cawthon, left me. I feel like that it's probably the most important thing Five Nights at Freddy's, and most importantly Scott Cawthon, if I may, left me. And as the game itself, I gotta give my most sincere thanks to Scott Cawthon himself, because this game, as I said, came out when I was in high school, essentially. And up all the way to now, to the university years, and as I said, not the best years for a teenager into a young adult, if I may. And I know I can always come back to Five Nights at Freddy's in order to give myself some sort of comfort, because one of my biggest fears is mannequins. Animatronics are kind of mannequins, puppets, if you may. So the reason why I really like Five Nights at Freddy's is because I usually search for horror games that include one of my fears, because I feel like that's where horror games are more impactful. I'm not gonna play Alien Isolation to be scared of something I'm not afraid of aliens, especially because I don't think that's how they behave. I know that there's the whole lore about Alien, but that doesn't scare me. But for example, puppets, psychological horror, that scares me, and that's usually what I search for horror games. But despite that, I don't feel fear with Five Nights at Freddy's. I feel enticed, I feel intrigued by the story, how the story narrates humans' obsessions, fears of death, psychopathy, and all of that stuff. But still, it's my comfort zone because it reminds me of when I could just lay back, sit down, calm myself and my senses from a very tough day, and you know, I can just put a Five Nights at Freddy's playlist and relieve a bit that sense of calmness that Five Nights at Freddy's brought me when I needed it. So it's kind of weird that one of my comfort zones is an horror game, but it is. So yeah, now I'm trying to get emotional, but yeah, that's pretty much what I had to say. I think I hope I haven't forgotten anything, to be honest, because there's so much I can talk about. There's so much to say about Five Nights at Freddy's. Like, I know that there's a very toxic part of the Five Nights at Freddy's community, but that's in all communities, in all like franchises and stuff. So I don't count that because toxic people are everywhere, and they're usually not actually real fans of stuff. So I'm not gonna count too much on that. So I'm just focusing on the positives here, and that's hopefully all I had to say. There's so much I can cover, but I just hope you enjoyed this little swim in the nostalgia sea. What can I say as to close the video? I can just say thank you, Scott. Thank you, the development and artist team that came in as the years progressed in order to bring new Five Nights at Freddy's. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you hopefully in the next one, because there is gonna be a next one, because I always come back.